What is going on, guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Take a Step podcast. We've got another treat for you again today. The guest we've got on, in the short span of time I've known him, he's probably one of the more intentional guys I've ever met. His name is John Szarszewski. He's the owner of HEW Fitness out in Woodstock, and we have such a great conversation, and I really kind of uncover how he goes all in on what his priorities are and some of his recent experiences that has shaped this quality that he has. So I think you guys will really find a lot of value out of this podcast. If you like it, guys, share it with a friend. Share it with someone who you think would find value in hearing what it truly looks like to go all in, not just to dabble, but to take action and go all in on what it is that you're taking action on. So I hope you guys enjoy, and let's get straight into this episode with John Szarszewski. What's going on, and welcome to the Take a Step podcast. I'm your host, Josh Johnston, founder of Take a Step. It's a community that's focused on bringing together like-minded individuals who are all purpose-driven towards taking action to maximize their God-given potential. If you find value in this podcast, please leave a rating and review on whichever platform you're listening. It really helps us to continue to grow this community and change more lives for the better. Feel free to give me a follow on social media at __take a step __, and reach out to me if you have any questions or just want to connect. With that being said, let's dive in. John, what's going on, man? I'm excited to get you on the Take a Step podcast. I've been pumped for this conversation for a while. I'm excited to get to know you a little bit more and just your story and experiences that have shaped you into who you are today. So thanks for joining today.
Of course, Josh. Happy to be here, man.
Awesome. Well, hey, I love it. I love just kind of turning it over to the guest just to introduce yourself however it makes sense. I love hearing how people introduce themselves because I think it provides some good insight into, their identity and who they are and what shaped them to who they are today. So with that, I'll let you take that and introduce yourself however you see fit.
Awesome, man. Yeah, John Szarszewski. I am the child of the Most High God, and that is who I am, what I get to do. It's a privilege to be a husband to my wife, Christina. We've been married for 8 years. We've got 3 beautiful daughters. So I'm a girl dad. Elliot, 6 years old, Madeline, 4, and then our newborn Micah is 8 months. And I'm a business owner. I make people better through the platform of fitness and really helping instill that discipline within them, that constant work, setting goals and making a plan to map out and reach those goals, and then having the accountability just to sit there and do that day in and day out. It's pretty cool to see how people just transform through that process. And I've been blessed to facilitate that. I've been doing that for the last 12 years. And I'm blessed beyond belief. I've got a beautiful family. I'm on fire for the Lord, on fire for just a growth mentality and just seeing people level up and really bring out the best version of themselves.
Love it, man. Well, hey, I'm excited to kind of dive into a little bit more of your story and what shaped you to who you are today and to having the experience into training people and not only growing them physically, but mentally, holistically in life. So I know when we were talking the other day, you mentioned this, the men's retreat that you recently went on. And I want to open up straight to that because I know that was extremely impactful for your life, both not only in the present, but also looking back into the past and shaping your future. So I really want to hear you open up about, what was the experience like and what kind of impact did it have on you?
Yeah. So I've been part of this program. It's called The Program. It's a coaching platform. Nick Alfano is our coach, and this guy's a killer. He's out there. He's a serial entrepreneur. He's started a bunch of 7-figure businesses. And throughout the whole platform and throughout his whole journey, he realized all these things weren't bringing him fulfillment. How he was living, he wasn't proud of that. How he was showing up as a father, as a husband, like he wasn't firing off on all cylinders. So it was empty. It's an empty promise. So he set out to create this coaching platform in a sense where you had to reprogram your mind. If everybody went to a Tony Robbins seminar and took the blueprint to go make $1 million and they actually followed through and did the steps, everybody would be walking around multimillionaires like with plenty of time at their hands. That's not the case. So why is it? right? It's not the business plan, it's the businessman. You got to work on yourself. So for the last year, I've been in this program and I've been dabbling in it. I haven't gone all in. I've been doing the weekly coaching calls and I've had some great one-on-ones with him. And I've made some improvements. Like I can see there's been some subtle changes and there's been a growth mentality. But really, it all cultivated last week. We went to a men's retreat. It's called The Shift, is what he calls this program. And for 3 days, we were tucked off in the woods in Tennessee with 15 other guys. And man, we just went through it. I'm a physical guy. I like fitness. That's my discipline. But man, they kicked our butts. We get off the bus and you're right to, 2 mile ruck or a 2 hour ruck all throughout the woods. But then pull us back and they're like, surprise, you're fasting for the next 24 hours.
Oh, that would get me.
Oh yeah. It's funny. He says, there's a lot of meatheads here. I bet one of you guys has a box of protein bars and meat sticks in your bag. Don't touch it. And I literally thought he went through my bag because I'm like, hey, before we go any further, I grab my bag, I pull out a box of protein bars and meat sticks. I'm like, I don't want the temptation. But anyways, we start going through and like in that container, in that environment, like I was going all in. I was like, I need to experience something because I do feel like I've been drifting. I've been making moves, but I'm not laser focused. I haven't been fully attentive, at the home. There's like this constant anxiety as a business owner that you could do more and make more. But when I was home, like I was just like never fully present with my family. And it was starting to show in certain areas. So I wanted to change. Fast forward, we're going in and out of the conference room. He's pouring into us, talking about your subconscious, how that programs 95% of your thoughts, patterns, behaviors. So no amount of grit, willpower, discipline is going to get you to the next level because eventually you're going to revert back to your program that has been set from a young age. And until you start to rewrite how you actually think and operate, you're never going to level up. So we keep going through a couple more fitness evolutions. Some of them were absolutely incredible, just like the thought behind it and the why behind it. I can't give it away because we will be bringing that to Woodstock in a couple of months. So I don't want to give away like all the secrets of it.
Yeah.
However, that was day one. At the end of day one, we had a quick 10-minute meditation. And meditation is something that I've always struggled with as a firm believer in Christ. And like, I put a lot of my identity as a child of God. Whenever I would hear people meditate in like the guided meditations, they would talk about connecting with the universe. And anytime I would hear that, it would instantly turn me off. I'm like, it's not the universe, it's God. So I would end up using meditation more as like a prayer time. So I'd kind of lose track of like where I'm at and I'd just start to pray. However, when I was actually going through it, I realized like, as you connect in the present moment, as you're still and you're like grounded with the universe, you're connected to God's ultimate creation. And through that connection, you can like hear him and feel him more audibly and visibly. So pretty cool moment. That first night we had to envision our 7-year-old self and think of our happiest memory. So my happiest memory, it was myself, my sister, and my 2 parents. And we were literally huddled around the coffee table. Nothing lavish, no like awesome toy or awesome vacation. It was just us in the coffee or in the living room at the coffee table. And my parents were present and were playing a board game. And like that, just having them there, no phones, no distractions, just like the family time together was my happiest memory. He then hands us a mirror and we had to look at ourselves now for 5 minutes. You're in dead silence, just staring at yourself. And he asked us, what's one word that you need to let go of to recreate and to get back to that happy memory? So the word that came up for me was simplify and let go of overcomplicating life. So with that, I started to realize like I've been denying my daughters my happiest memory as a child, which was just my parents fully engaged and present, because I've been like stressed out. Like I got to provide more. I got to get them another toy. I got to get them this new experience or this new vacation. And literally through that anxiety, I wasn't fully there. So that was a pretty cool aha moment the first night. Fast forward the next day, we're still fasted at this point. And we go through a couple more killer fitness evolutions. You ever done Man on Fire burpees?
Is it similar? Is it similar like death by burpees? That similar style?
No, not that style. So it's a burpee. It's basically, think back to elementary school, stop,
Yeah.
drop, and roll.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what you do. So you drop
Okay.
down to the ground in a burpee, you do a roll, and then you jump up. Drop
Okay.
down to the burpee, roll over the way, jump up. So we had to do that 43 times. We had to do 43 push-ups, 43 squats, 43 step-ups. Then they had us do 43 bear crawls up like a 20-yard hill. And you can't do that fast. And at this point, you're depleted, man. Like you haven't eaten anything. You've been going through it. And after the 43 bear crawls, I thought our team was done. And they say, all right, 43 more man on fire burpees. And at this point, you get to that wall. You're like, uh-oh, like how long am I pacing through this?
Yeah.
So we end up keep going for another probably hour. And at one point, the Coach Hudson came over. He's like, do you guys know why you're still doing this? I don't know, dude. I'm at your disposal right now. Like, you tell me. And he said the last team hasn't finished their full evolution. They haven't finished the bear crawls. So at that point, it made sense. So every one of the guys rallied behind him, and we were literally pushing, arguably like the slower guy. We were literally like pushing him up that hill for every one of his reps. It was so cool to like build that camaraderie and that unity, and we were bonding in that moment. So we finished up that workout routine, and then at this point, they're like, all right, we're going to set the stage. You guys are going to slow down, experience your experience, go all in, but no talking. We're going up into this room and just go through it. We walk up into this room, and they float out a breath coach from Utah, and she starts walking us through what we're going to be doing. It's a guided breath work meditation, doing DMT breathing. So DMT, like, that's the chemical that's in a lot of those psychedelic drugs. It's in mushrooms, for example. But your brain naturally produces it. And through breathing exercises, you can trigger your brain to release more of it. And you can have this pretty out-of-body experience. So we buckle down. We all lay on the ground. We put an eye mask on, and we're just like fully present and grounded. And we start guiding through these breathing exercises. And within 10 minutes, I'm like out of body. I'm not there anymore. I'm feeling myself like kind of locking up, like my hands are locked up on my sides. I can't release my grip. And I'm feeling like these tingles from my neck all the way down to my toes. And it was a scary moment because I was like so present in the moment, and I felt this, and I'm like, you got to slow down. It's like, you're going to die if you keep going through this. And there was a voice that told me, like, no, you need to experience this moment, like, go all in. So I buckle down and I breathe harder. Fast forward, she starts guiding us through these prompts. And the first thing she said was, envision your 7-year-old self and go and grab his hand. So little John, I see him, and it's this little boy, curly haired. I got these little glasses on, and I had this like this innocence and this excitement for life. And I go and I grab his hand, and I remember that little boy was now looking up at me as a grown man, and I'm a wreck. I'm sitting there, I'm crying my eyes out, and I'm just like sitting this moment of shame. And this little boy was trying to give me comfort. He's trying to comfort me as a grown man. We then kind of float into my living room in the current day, and he's seeing how it's playing out. And I'm on the couch in the living room scrolling through Instagram while my kids are making arts and crafts in the living room. And my oldest, Ellie, comes over to me. She's got this picture she made, and she's like, hey, Dad, look at this. And I quickly just put my phone down, and I'm like, oh, Ellie, that's so sweet. Make another one. And I kind of just push her along so I can get back to my mindless scrolling. And I'm just like keeping them at my side.
Yeah.
And he's seeing this. And there's this moment of like realization. Like last night, I realized my word was simplify, don't overcomplicate life, and be present. And I'm not doing that. So I'm just feeling some kind of way. And remember, I'm still in this locked up position. All right. At this point, I literally see Jesus. He starts to walk towards me, and he's got his arms out, and he gets 2 feet in front of me with his arms out. And I'm just screaming out, like, I submit, surrender. I'm going to give you all of me. And I'm trying to reach out to him with everything in my power, and I cannot release my fingers. She said at the start of this, she's like, you might experience, she called it throwing up gang signs, where your hands might start to do some weird stuff. I was in that, but I was in this locked position. And no matter how hard I could do it, I could not release my grip. And it was the most agonizing pain I've ever felt to see Jesus right there and to not be able to reach out and just hold him and grab him. And I couldn't. Every ounce of me, I could not release one finger. So I'm just crying. I'm a wreck. I'm just screaming. And I would equate the pain like, imagine you pass and you're at the gates of heaven and God's saying like, I'm sorry, you didn't give me all of it. And you're just sitting there, you see him and you cannot reach out and grab him. At that moment, so I'm in this posture position, he fades away. And now I see myself I had a gym 10 years ago in Wellington, Florida. So I see myself on the floor in that gym. And a little backstory there, what kind of thrusted me into the entrepreneurial life and into this business, I was coaching at that gym and a guy came in, we gave him a tour of the gym and he was just going to sit back and watch the class, which is pretty common. Like what we do is unique in a sense. Mm-hmm. 10 years ago, like CrossFit boot camp wasn't a huge thing back then. And while the class is going on and he's just kind of spectating, he came behind me at some point and he grabbed a 5-pound steel plate. And as I'm coaching somebody, he came behind me and he cracked me across the head. So he threw the hardest punch he could with that 5-pound steel plate, literally just shattered the side of my face and it left me with a brain bleed. So at that moment, I woke up on the gym floor and they're holding C-spine. They're telling me paramedics are on the way because it knocked me out right away. And as I'm laying there, I felt myself starting to posture up. So when you have a brain injury, that's pretty common. Like you'll go to this posturing position. Mm-hmm. So all of a sudden, I'm in this position now in the present day while I'm doing this meditation. And I'm seeing myself in that same position 10 years ago on the gym floor. While I'm laying there and I'm seeing myself, the word calling is just like vivid right in front of me. And underneath calling, all in is underlined. And I don't know if God was speaking to me audibly or he was just showing me everything I needed to see. But at that moment, he was telling me, I gave you your calling at this moment. I gave you your calling. This is what I wanted you to do. This is what you were destined to do, is to step into this role. And when I gave you this chance for this beautiful testimony, instead you turned it into an ego play and you made it all about you. You made it about you, that you're this 25-year-old business owner. You're this good athlete. You're going to get back into shape. It's all you. And I'm just sitting there like, oh, I'm a wreck. I'm laying on the ground, still postured, and I'm just screaming out like, I submit and surrender. I'm going to simplify my life, and I'm going all in on my calling. Going all in on my calling. I'm going to simplify my life. I submit and surrender every bit of me. I got saved a couple of years ago, but there's still been 3% of the world that I've just kind of kept in my back pocket.
Yep.
God, I give you all of me, but you're not touching this. Like, this is still me. And I realized, I'm like, no, I got to go all in for him, all in for this platform that he gave me. And I'm submitting, surrendering. At this point, we start going through the CO2 release. So you're not present, but you're there and you can still hear her as she's guiding you through these prompts. Mm-hmm. And the CO2 release is a chance just to exhale and just to let it all out. So you're in a room of 15 guys. We're all having our own experiences. And as we're just exhaling, you're just screaming at the top of your lungs. And it felt so good to release this energy. And it's this ugly scream cry. I mean, if you could hear the audio from this moment, like the power in it is incredible because everybody's having this, like, some people are laughing. They're having these weird experiences. I'm sitting there just like screaming out at the top of my lungs in the scream cry. And as I'm doing that, I start to see Jesus walking back up. He's got his arms out again. And every scream and exhale I'm doing, I'm starting to feel like my pinkies release. I'm starting to feel like my ring finger release. And finally, like my hands open up and then my elbows start to release and I finally can reach out. And I'm literally in Jesus's arms, hugging him and just crying on his shoulder, just saying, I submit, surrender, all in on my calling. I'm simplifying. Thank you for showing me this. As I'm in his arms, little 7-year-old John walks back in. And at this point now he's walking in and he's kind of worried about, like, he's nervous about what he saw and what life is going to be like. And now as a confident man, as I went through this, I'm like, no, I see what I got to do. I'm like, I literally, like, I felt like I stepped into manhood at this moment. So I grabbed this little boy's hand. I'm like, no, come here. Let me show you. And I pull him into my living room. And now I go and it's just me and my girls and my wife. And we're just sitting there together, just holding each other, hugging each other. I'm like, this is it. And I feel Jesus' hands on my shoulders. And so I'm showing this boy, this is what life is going to be like. And at that point, she rings this gong and she's like, okay, that's your experience. Go ahead. Whenever you're ready, stand up. I'm like, dude, I can't move. Like what I just went through, like I just had this aha, like this final moment of like all in, simplify, submit, surrender. So I can't move. I just flip over on my hands and knees and my head in the ground in this prayer submission like I've never been in before. And I'm just sitting there crying and praying, probably for 20 minutes. Finally, I'm like, all right, you got to gather yourself. Like, let's get up. So I slowly stand up. I take my eye mask off, and 80% of the room had left at this point. But two of my good buddies, they were still in the room. And Irving, he's one of my coaches and one of my best friends. He comes over, and dude, he's teary-eyed. And he literally just, we have this hug, and he melts on my shoulders, and he's talking about his experience where he saw his father. And his father passed a little under a year ago, and he wasn't there for his last breath. It's like, John, I got to say goodbye to my dad. I got to like hold him and hug him and like say goodbye to him. And he kept telling me everything's okay. So we're sitting there crying together. And then I hear my coach, Michael, he's laying on the floor in the corner and he's still on the ground, eye mask on, and he's just still screaming out in this agonizing pain. So we all go over, we put our hands on him and we're just sitting there crying with him. And he'll have to share his experience at a later date, but he essentially went through this epiphany that his biological father left when he was 7. And he never asked his mom why his dad left because his stepdad was already in the mix and his stepdad was such an awesome man. So he felt like it would be disrespectful to his stepdad if he could, ask, why did dad leave? So for the last 18 years, he's walked around with this feeling like he wasn't enough and something was wrong with him and he's not good enough because dad left. But he never felt like he could ask because he didn't want to be disrespectful. Mm-hmm. So he had this moment of realizing like, no, I am enough. Like I can't put God in a box. I can't put myself in a box. Like I am capable of anything I set my minds to. I've got God behind my side. And through that experience, like that night, he was able to call his mom and they talked for an hour. And they talked about like, why did dad leave? What happened there? And they continued those conversations throughout. So at the end of this, like everybody had left the room and Michael, Irvin, and myself were like, we can't leave. Like we need to just like have a moment of prayer. So we just get down on our knees and we pray together. And there's a really powerful picture I'll share with you. We're just sitting there in this complete surrender and gratitude and thanksgiving of just like, God, thank you for showing us this. Mm. So fast forward the rest of the trip. And at this point, they're like, oh, guys, you guys can go eat now. And we're looking at each other like, I'm not hungry. Like, we're like, I don't need food. I don't need anything. Like we're on fire. We had our moment. But to fast forward the rest of the trip, we do a couple more fitness evolutions. These guys pour into us and they're talking all things power of money, how to implement AI into your businesses. And like, there's some wild stuff out there. Coach Hudson, if you give him a follow, Hudson Wilkoff, this guy's an AI expert. And he was showing through how you can get 1,000 leads a day free using AI and all of his different tools. But that was the experience. One of the coolest moments, and this is why it's so important, is to have a band of brothers that can like pull your card and hold you accountable.
For sure.
On the way home, we get back, and the next day, a good friend of mine, Josh Lanford, he's the one that I would say brought me to Christ. He's the first person to like actually pray for me and open my eyes to what real prayer and a real relationship with God looks like. And he's been a great mentor for the last couple of years. So I got to share this whole story with him. And at the end of it, he's like, oh man, I'm so thankful God gave you that experience. But he then followed it up by telling me, be careful not to worship the experience. Thank God. Yeah. And as he's saying that, I was like, wow, thank you. Because the night before, I was literally YouTubing like DMT breathing exercises. How can you do this on the regular? Is it safe to do by yourself? I was like, I want more of this.
Mm-hmm.
Having him like give me that revelation, like, no, thank God for this experience. Take what you learned and now just put it into action. But you don't need more of that. You just need to take what he gave you and now go all in on that.
Yeah, dude, I resonate with so many different pieces of that story, or just of that experience, because the one thing that kept ringing to me, and I wrote it the first time you said it, and I'm happy that you continued to go back to it and really drill down on it, is, you know, the difference in dabbling versus going all in. You know, you said it when talking about, you know, how you've been involved with the program, you know, previously, and you've been dabbling with it and you decided to go all in at this point. You know, when you're talking about your, you know, going through the breath work, you know, deciding to say, hey, I'm going to, you know, choose to go all in right here. When seeing Jesus, telling Jesus, you know, like I've been, you know, I've given you 97% of my life, but there's this 3% back here that I still want to keep and, you know, choose to do, you know, a couple things of the world. But the idea of going all in, I think, is so powerful when people can finally it's funny because all in, the first thing it takes is surrendering, right? You know, it's funny because you think all in, you're like, all right, I'm going to take control. I'm going to go at it with like everything I've got. But typically, and this is so like the perfect metaphor is, you know, our walk with Christ is the first step to going all in is saying, hey, I need to submit and surrender to whatever that is. And I think so many people have a fear of that, and it scares them for it, whether if it's their faith, starting a business, taking their health serious, whatever that is, or creating a new relationship. I think there's a lot of fear that comes from whether if it's judgment or, you know, fear of failure. There's a lot of different reasons that scare people from choosing to, you know, surrender everything and go all in on something. So for you, kind of, what do you think? Why do you think that scares people so much, and how can we you know, take that first step into saying, hey, no matter what happens, no matter who judges me, if I don't succeed, how do I take that first step into saying, hey, I'm going all in?
Well, first off, I'll say it's so cool when you say that, because when I recognized the fear of going all in, it was on all four domains. Mm-hmm. I wasn't going all in on my faith. I wasn't going all in on my family. I wasn't going all in on my fitness or my finances. And it's how you do one thing is how you do everything. So if you want to be a better business owner, be a better father and a better husband. Get in better shape, like weaponize your body, put in the right supplements, the right nutrition plan, and spend time, like go all in on God and like fully submit, surrender to him. And when you start to do when you do that, inevitably you'll start to make more money. It's pretty cool how that works. Mm. I realized at that moment, like I hadn't gone all in on anything. I gave it 97%, and that's a pass. I mean, that's a good grade, and I was good. Now I was a good child of God. I was a good father. I was a good husband. But what's the enemy of great? It's good. I don't want to be good. And I recognize, I'm like, man, this pattern is showing up in so many different areas of my life. It's scary to go all in because that's the moment of complete surrender, and like you want to control everything. However, I think before you go all in, you're in this drift mentality. And when you're drifting through life, like you're not fully thinking for yourself. You're not passionate about like anything. You wouldn't be willing to die for a cause. Like you're just kind of drifting and coasting. And the majority of people walk through life in this drift state. And it's not until you can like find your definite sense of purpose and then realize like, I'd rather burn the boat to go take the island. I need to go all in on this cause. And when you know that God has called you to this and you have a definite sense of purpose and you have the faith in God in the attainment of that purpose, start praying and watch how he opens up. But I think the majority of people, they end up going to prayer only in fear and desperation because they've exhausted all of their personal efforts. They've tried to do all these things. So then they come to God with this fearful mentality, like it's not going to work. And then guess what? Your prayers are then realized because you don't fully believe it's going to work. But when you find what that definite sense of purpose is, and you have a complete faith, because God cannot be put in a box. When you have complete faith that he will open the doors and give you the right avenues to get this done. Watch what happens. And then all of a sudden, failure is not a bad thing. Like failure becomes feedback. So if I know that this is what I'm called for, I know that God's going to get me there, and I'm in tune with Him. If something comes up, if something fails, okay, let me reroute. But I still am on that journey. And I don't think people have, like, a lot of people haven't developed the grit and the discipline to be steadfast, because it is exhausting. It does take a lot of energy and a lot of work and a lot of persistence to keep pushing through to make that happen. And I think about myself as a business owner. I mean, we started this gym up here 2.5 years ago, and we sold a gym in Florida that was making great money. I had a property management business down there that was doing very well as well. So we burned both of those things down to move up here and start fresh. And to go 2 years of no income coming in, because I'm building this business, like that entity had to take priority over myself. So for 2 years to, like, let's buckle down. Things are going to be tighter, but this is the purpose and this is the mission. You need to have that end goal in sight and just hold on to it. Otherwise, you're not gonna achieve it.
Yeah, I mean, just like it's in 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, begin with the end in mind, right?
Sure.
I think understanding what that end looks like is the key to be able to, essentially reverse engineer the process to understand what does it look like step by step to get there, and what do I need to accomplish now. But you mentioned something a second ago talking about it's not failure, it's feedback. And I think we've done a horrible job as the past few generations of painting failure in a negative light, on having, especially coming up, like having standardized testing being pass or fail, and failure's bad, passing's good. And I think that's created a society that deems that failure is not okay. Failure is, in my opinion, failure is fantastic because you took action on something that you weren't positive you were going to be able to do, and you see what you did wrong. Now you can make the adjustments and try to go back and do what's right. And it promotes risk taking, because without risk, then what's the reward? What's the point to doing anything if you know you're going to succeed at it? Because that's just going to lead to less productivity and people not striving for ultimate greatness, right? And I think chasing after something, not knowing if you're going to pass or fail, is what we need to, what we need to chase after. Because, like I said, failure. I kind of coined a phrase recently. Instead of calling something problems, call it projects, right? So I think it kind of relates to this topic of not painting such a bad negative light on failure, because with failure comes problems, right? Quote unquote problems. But if you can reverse engineer that to say, hey, let's call it projects, because with projects, the connotation is that, all right, there's work to do to continue to grow and build something greater down the road, right? So I just love hearing you talk about the idea of, failure versus feedback, and growing to build something greater down the road. I love that concept.
And I like what you said about the standardized testing. I'm not blaming any teacher out there. Like, I love teachers, and their job is so selfless, and they're pouring into the next generation, but they're just doing what they've been taught.
Yep.
And I think our school system, like, they're not teaching kids to think for themselves. They're not teaching kids to just learn how to solve problems on themselves. They have to follow this formula. If it's not how they wanted to do it, like, you have to go through Common Core math. If you don't do it this way, but you still got the same answer, no, sorry, that's wrong. Like, you had to do it this way. And really, schools should be teaching kids, like, regardless of how you get the answer or what, there is right and wrong, but get kids to think for themselves.
Mm-hmm. And
imagine being in grade school and, like, asking a deeper question to a teacher. They're going to say, like, oh, that doesn't matter. Let's move on. Like, they don't want you to, like,
that's not part of the curriculum.
Correct. And, like, even colleges used to be these institutions of higher learning. They've gone away from that. Like, now it's just like, here you go. And we're being programmed just to be these drones to fit a certain role and just to navigate in society. When in reality, they were programming us just to go out there and to think for ourselves, to find a passion that we love, and to learn how to to problem solve, to learn how to accept failure as feedback, look at problems as projects and opportunities. Like, imagine what this world would start turning into. We'd start making a difference, because we live in the best country in the world and we have the most freedoms. Now let's get out there and start thinking for ourselves and go make a difference for the rest of the world.
Yeah. And it's funny because I went to a small college. I played baseball at a small college. So I was blessed to be in a environment that it allowed for a lot more personalization when, putting together what the classes would look like. And there was one class I took, it was like salesmanship or something like that. And there was like 15 people in the class maybe. And the structure of the class was, the professor was not in higher education. He was a businessman. He built businesses, and he retired and taught at the university part-time. So he was a real world guy. He didn't come from academia. And which was so cool. And I resonated so much with that. And shocker, it was my favorite class I took in college. But what he did is he would share, because there was some sort of curriculum that the university had built out. So he would share personal experiences and what he went through from that, based on that curriculum in his life. And then on Wednesdays, so it was Monday, Wednesday, Friday. On Monday, he would lecture. On Wednesdays and Fridays, each person would pick a product, anything from that they had in their dorm or whatever. They would put together a pitch, come up to the front of the class, pitch them on that product, and he would either buy or not buy. And if he didn't buy, he would tell you the adjustments to make, and you would come back and pitch it next week. And it's like talking about getting away from standardized testing and more on practicality. What's more practical than having that one-on-one, developing the soft skills, and being able to do that? It just kind of further develops or kind of hammers down the point of it's not black and white. Like they're the soft skills that need to be created and developed. And I just, when you talk about getting away from the standardization, that and getting away from pass fail, it's hey, let's attempt to do something. You're going to do good or you're going to do bad. If you do bad, let's learn from it and do better next time.
Love that. And I think everybody has that teacher they remember that made an impact on their life. Mm-hmm. I can almost bet that every one of those teachers was somebody that had them think outside the box, just like you're saying.
Yeah.
It's not that they taught me reading really well. No, they taught me just to think and open my mind and become my own version myself. Now, when you went to college, did you have a clear goal of what you were going for?
No clue.
Okay,
Zero clue. I went to college to play baseball. That's it.
So college for me was just the next step as well. And I think that's another problem. If we could start getting people to really hone in and take the time to find what they're passionate about and what their purpose is, then college is great. Get out there and master your craft and learn and be an expert in that. But for so many of us, we're drifting through. College just inevitably seems like the next step. We're going to go hang out with buddies and have a good time. And yeah, I'll probably learn some stuff and maybe grow in the meantime. But if we went to college with this definite sense of purpose, I know this is what I'm looking to do, imagine what we would be coming out like.
For sure. And I think for me, I went to college and I was it'll be something in business that because that's, standard. And I'm extremely passionate about this topic because it's part of my mission behind Take a Step is I want people to chase after what they're passionate about and not feel like they have to fall into this system. And the system in my mind is you finish high school, you go to college, you get a degree, you find an entry-level corporate job, you fall into this system and structure, and you grow based on the time that you're with a company, rather than you have a purpose and not where you're going to college, but why you're going to college. You don't necessarily need to know, hey, this is what I want to do, but why you're going because you want to develop the understanding of what you're passionate about. So that you can take action on that and develop the skills to be able to take action on what that passion is. And then from there, because of that passion that you now have the understanding of, I'm going to take one step into chasing that passion. You're not going to, I'm a big anti get rich quick scheme. So it's not like you're going to step out, have this great plan and have this shortcut to achieving wealth, but what that is. Don't fall victim to feeling like you're falling into what you're supposed to do, but instead you're falling into what you know you're supposed to do because it's what you're passionate about.
I love that. My coach, Nick, he was talking about his 3 kids, and they're college age at this point. He's got one daughter at Alabama, and then his middle child, she's getting ready for school. She graduates high school, and she sat him down. She's like, Dad, did the math. This is what college is going to cost me. Mm-hmm. But I don't want to do that. I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to follow your route. Mm-hmm. So instead, I want you to take a $200,000 loan out from you, which is what you would pay for me to go to college. Here's my business plan. Here's what I want to do. And he's like,
that's so cool.
I was so proud of her. So he's like, she's my little entrepreneur. She's out there grinding. But it is cool, man, when you can find that purpose at a young age. Like, I love it.
Yeah, that's so cool. What, thanks for sharing about the experience. I mean, I think there's so much we can take out of that. And I've been involved with, different events and retreats in the past that were designed for personal growth or leadership growth with a physical, approach. And there's so many cool sides to how the physical side of life can quickly translate into the mental side of life, and I think most people get started on a physical journey, whether if it's to lose a bunch of weight or to build a bunch of muscle or just to recreate themselves physically, because that's kind of the foundation of it. It's for a physical purpose. Almost everyone you talk to that takes action on that and they start to see the results will tell you that there is so much more mental benefit that they got out of that process than physical benefit. That was me with when I first got into the weight room when I was in college. I grew up, I've told my story a couple of times, but I was a little kid growing up, and I, wanted to play baseball, and I got a scholarship to a small school. I wasn't big enough, or, I had some good skill, but I just wasn't big enough yet to be getting, the D1 scholarships or get D1 looks for that matter. And then once I got to college, I found out what the weight room was, and as I continued to take action in that regard, mentally I was like, oh wait, I if I can build out the disciplines, if I can be regimented, and what I put in is what I'm going to get out. There's nothing more true than that than your physical fitness, and seeing how that transpires plays into your mental life, because you can build out the discipline with your faith. You can build out the discipline with your career. You can build out the discipline with your relationships. And everything you built out and strengthened on the physical side of life has a direct correlation to your mental side of life. And then same was true with running. When I got into running after college, I found that mental clarity in waking up early and going for the run and building out the mental discipline. That, there's so many connotations when I guess relating the mental side of life with physical. What are your thoughts on that?
Yes, I've been blessed beyond belief to facilitate exactly what you've been talking about. I get to facilitate that to hundreds of people every single day, and I've done that for the last decade, and it is so cool. And all of the wins that I've seen, I remember some of the body transformations. One of our guys in Wellington, Greg, young kid, and we got him to lose 100 pounds. He's now like on fire. This guy's a stud, and he's a different man because of that. But seeing the 100-pound weight loss is really cool. However, when I see somebody come in and through this discipline of fitness, they start to transform their body, but they're coming up to me a couple months later and they're like, hey man, like this place saved my marriage. I'm a better husband, and my marriage is on fire right now, and it wasn't 3 months ago. I'm like, that's what I care about. When I see people like having the belief in self to like step out of the rat race and to go out there and like follow their passion now, because they've developed this idea and this ideology that they can stick to a business, like stick to a plan, like day in and day one, just like keep putting in this effort, and they'll see the growth. All of a sudden they're stepping out now. They're entrepreneurs and they're starting their own businesses, and they're like making a difference in this world. Yeah. Not punching a time clock. Like those are the wins that I love. Seeing people coming in and there's like, they're finding a community. They're finding people that they can do life together around these healthy hobbies. And they're finding this new friend circle, and they're cutting out addictions, and they're cutting out these bad habits that never serve them. Like those are the real wins that I get to hold on to. And yeah, there's so much correlation. Like I said, how you do one thing is how you do everything. So discipline is typically that platform when you walk in and you start to work on yourself, you start to feel better and you're like, okay, actually, what else can I do? And that starts to spill over into all other areas.
Mm-hmm. So what got you into health and fitness originally? Was it a passion at a young age, or did you kind of find that passion in college and when you were a young adult?
Kind of, I mean, I liked your story with it, like similar where I found the weight room pretty young, and I fell in love with it. I had played sports throughout high school, so college lacrosse and football. And to be better, you just start to like find these relationships and you get with your brothers and your boys and you're in the weight room and it feels good. And it's like a fun, healthy hobby. And throughout college, the weight room became my discipline to kind of keep me on a straighter path.
Yeah.
I was definitely living in the world. Didn't really know myself and didn't have a clear sense of direction. So inevitably, like going out late nights, parties and whatnot. However, I would be the guy to like kind of cut it in a little earlier because I'm like, I'm doing a 7 a.m. workout tomorrow. Like, I don't need another beer. Like, I'm good.
Yeah.
So I discipline helped keep me on a straighter path. Throughout all that, I was still kind of following my father's footsteps. So he was a police officer, so I was going to go that route. I'm a first generation entrepreneur, so that doesn't play good in my cards. Typically first generation entrepreneurs have it the hardest because they grew up in this mentality of like live according to your means. Debt is scary. Just like save a little bit, work for the company for 20, 25 years, get a pension, retire at this age. Like that's what I was growing up in. However, as I graduated, I realized policing wasn't going to be for me. So I was looking into fire academy. And at that time, as I was going through the academy, I found this gym in Jupiter, Florida. It's HEW Fitness. And it was a different style of fitness that I had ever done. Like CrossFit and boot camp workouts were kind of still newer at this point.
Yeah.
And I had mastered my push pull lower routine. I was just I'm in there in the tank top and I have my headphones on. I'm just like push pull lower going through it. I got my gallon jug of water. It's kind of a douche, to be honest. When I
we all were. For those that found fitness in the gym in that way back in college, everybody had that phase for sure.
The pre-workouts that they were selling to me at 18 years old, like
triple scooping them.
Dry scooping them.
Yeah.
Worse. But I went into this gym and like they were doing a completely new avenue of fitness that I'd ever done. Like I had never done a muscle up. I'd never even seen it before. I'd never thought to go like do a bear crawl in an actual workout. I'm like, what is this? These guys are kind of nuts. But I was going through and I liked the energy and I liked the vibe. And it was a new challenge for me. Like I had mastered my push pull lower and I was seeing these steady progress and there's some fun to it, but I hadn't like stepped out and tried a new challenge. So HEW Fitness, I was like, okay, let me give it a shot. And within a couple of weeks, the owners came up. They're like, hey, we love what you're doing. We need a part-time coach. You want to get trained up and coach with us? And I had some time in between school. And so I'm like, yeah, let me try it. As I stepped into that role, I quickly realized like, I no longer want to be the athlete. Like I want to be the coach. Like it's so fun to be able to facilitate and to pour into people and just to love them and teach them this discipline and this avenue of fitness. So I fell in love with the community and did that for a couple of years. And then that's when that story happened where I did get attacked in my gym. And at that time, my family, like my parents are absolutely incredible. My sister, I'm in business actually with her now. Like we're best friends. So we do life together.
It's awesome.
And so our family, we grew up with this really tight knit group where we never really needed outside community. Like I had my friends, but like there was never a challenge that our family came across that was bigger than us. And when I got attacked, waking up in the hospital bed in the ICU and seeing the hundreds of people that I had been coaching for the last 2 years, they're in the hospital, hugging my wife, hugging my sister, hugging my parents, and they're just there with them. I recognize them like, man, like there's something to be said about being part of something bigger than yourself. Inevitably, something might happen in life that is bigger than what you can handle. And that was the moment, like I said, God showed me this is your calling. And at that point, took out a small loan, bought into the business, and I never looked back. Throughout that whole journey, I mean, really, I just realized last week, in a sense, I still made it about me and not fully about just investing myself in them. I'm probably a little hypercritical and I beat myself up on it, but at this point, I'm going all in on that. I'm just growing people, cultivating the community, and yeah, we're making a big movement here in Woodstock.
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk to that, but like there's something special about the communities that are built around fitness. I mean, that's one of my big kind of why I advocate so much to get into fitness, because the communities will come. Like you'll find those connections, and being able to get out and find the fellowship amongst people that are trying to accomplish hard things physically together breeds that relationship growth. And so I'd love to hear you talk about, so you've been at HEW for what, 12 years?
12 years. Yep.
Tell me, so what makes you unique, both from a corporate perspective, but then also what you're building here in Woodstock?
Yeah. So it's kind of cool because we are a small franchise.
Okay.
So I own the Woodstock location, and we're just looking to expand and really take over Georgia. We were founded in South Florida, so we're predominantly in that little pocket on the East Coast. So like Palm Beach County, you got a gym in every single city down there. And like HEW, people would ask, "Oh, where do you work out? Do you go to Orange Theory, HEW, or CrossFit?" Like we were just like a common name.
Okay.
It's been cool to come up here, have no brand recognition, and like have to like actually establish what this brand really means. So from a corporate standpoint, like I love the brand, but now I have the chance to like put my own touch on it per se.
Yeah.
Because it's not a cookie cutter. Like I'm not owning a Dunkin' Donuts where it's like, okay, set it and forget it. Like there's no like personality or culture there. What we can create here is we're really proud of what we created. The brand itself, I mean, we're found on the pillars of faith, family, fitness, and fun. So we do believe that you should be connected to a higher power. I know that is God. We believe there's power in like family, and family extends outside of just your four walls. So family is also family and friends. So that's your community. We believe in weaponizing your body. It's 70% of illnesses and deaths in America are self-inflicted. It's through your own habits and behaviors. And 70% of our deaths in this country are because we're not eating right. We're not living an active health style. We're putting in chemicals and bad foods and different additives into our bodies that are like literally causing stress. So when we can start to get people healthy and we can get them from sick to healthy to like optimally to get them to fit, all of a sudden they're not going to the hospitals, they're not going to the doctors, and like they're thriving. And then the last thing is fun. Like we do believe in this, like life should be enjoyed. And that's why we make our workouts fun. When people come in here, they're laughing. I mean, yeah, you're going through a bunch of burpees, you're lifting, you're doing heavy squats, and you're pushing to your limits. But I promise you, like while you're doing it, you're having so much fun in the moment because you're around like a group of people with this like-minded interest. And like, it's not so cutthroat where you're just competing against everybody. It's this culture of like, no, we're going through this challenge together. We're lifting each other up. So the fun component's definitely there as well.
Yeah.
The brand itself, like very similar in a sense to CrossFit. I do believe in functional training, but we've taken like the compete everyday mentality. That's not true. Like you got to train every day and then compete a couple times a year. Like we just got done with our Murph workout. That was definitely like a compete day where we pushed the limits. However, even within that, if you were there at our gym, like you would feel the camaraderie and people were there to do something bigger than themselves. It was a chance.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Like we were there. I was there. I've talked about F3 a good bit throughout in previous episodes. So we were there. Y'all were, gracious enough to let us use the rig that we set up, at 5 a.m. before your 6 a.m. class started. And we just kind of, it's great to kind of be in that environment and see, the early classes being able to, the early classes getting started. And I obviously I follow you on your social media, so just kind of seeing throughout the day the camaraderie that's built, especially I mean with a workout like Murph on Memorial Day, honoring our fallen heroes. Moments like that are so cool to experience, especially when you have a built community of people who are close and love each other and are doing something fun and physically challenging at the same time. It was such a cool day.
The 9:30 class had 60 people in it, so the energy was through the roof.
Yeah.
But the coolest moment was as everybody was finishing their last mile, they'd finish, but they weren't just like going into the gym to check their time and to post it on Instagram and talk about how great they are. They literally stayed right outside and they waited for the next person to come in and to cheer them in. And then that person stayed along with them and they cheered in the next person. So by the end of it, like the last 10 people to finish up, we had 50 people gather around in the parking lot. And as they were turning that corner for the mile run, we are just ripping it up. We're clapping and screaming, and kids are running over to them and running in like the finish line with them. Mm-hmm. And like just having that moment where it's like not about you, it's about investing in the next person. You're part of something bigger than yourself. It was a really cool experience. And that's kind of the culture that we're trying to create here at HEW. And I think that's what separates us from a lot of our competitors.
Yeah.
Is the bigger than you mentality.
Mm. Did you see how we ended before y'all started?
So you guys got started. I'm on this new kick. So I'm doing this thing called COG every day. So COG stands for cost of greatness. Mm-hmm. And so that's the COG. And then in there, impact over income. So it's kind of like the mantra we live by is cost of greatness, impact over income. Now the disciplines that are like practical that you can implement every day, you could check these different boxes. It's almost like 75 hard, but a more practical, like actually going to grow you, not just like buckle down.
75 days and then you check the box and then you get back to your normal way of living.
Correct. And this is like a growth mentality. So part of that, the faith component, there's faith in God and faith in self. So every day I start with, some prayer time and then time in the Word. And I did that before F3 came in for Murph. But then the other faith component is faith in self. And that's achieved through daily disciplines of meditation and journaling. So the 7:30 class, they're starting to roll in, and you guys were doing your thing. And I hadn't done my meditation yet. So I'm like, let me check in with myself before I start to go and just pour myself into this community. So actually, as you guys were finishing up, I went into the office, I put on my noise canceling headphones, and I laid down. I know there was a whole storm around me, but I was just like present in the moment. And it was so cool to ground myself before I stepped into coach mode.
Yeah.
I could literally it had a different feeling to it. Like I could feel the emotions more just because I took 10 minutes just to check in with me, check in with like the universe. Now I could go out there and like just seeing the smiles, seeing the wins, like it literally, like I felt more present in it. And it rang a little bit different this year.
Very cool.
So did not see how you guys finished.
No, so very similar to what you were saying. Everybody had finished, for those who don't know the Murph mile run, standard is, 100 pull-ups, 200 push-ups, 300 squats, another mile run. And the actual way it was created is with a 20-pound weighted vest on. People break it up and modify as needed in their own ways. But everyone had finished the last mile run, and there was one guy in the group who was just finishing his last set of squats and hadn't started his last mile. It is a brutal workout, and a lot of guys were, gassed and, ready to, sit on the ground, like you said, kind of check their time, recover. And then there was this last guy who was about to start his mile run, and we had a bunch of American flags sitting out there. Everyone grabbed a flag, and we all kind of, did that last mile with him. And coming back into the parking lot to finish out was just such a cool feeling, knowing that we all just literally gave it all we had for, between 40 minutes and an hour. And like nobody was like, all right, like there's no way I'm running another mile. And then seeing this guy who's like giving it everything he has, and he's, he has one more mile left to give, and we're all sitting here like, no, we're doing this together. And finishing that was just a really cool experience. Like you're talking about, people like don't care about their own personal times or go into post whatever they did. But they're there for the camaraderie and for the community.
Not to mention it was a monsoon. Like,
Yeah.
it was coming down.
Yeah.
That actually made it like there was
Made
a
it
certain
cool.
element. Yeah, it made it really cool. I had a couple of people come up to me after, they're like, man, like I wasn't sure if I was going to go out there and run. Like I almost heard some thunder. I thought I might modify with the rowers. I didn't want to get wet,
Yeah.
but you guys created like this build up in the prayer before and the story before about Murph. Like I just felt like, no, we're doing this. And they were so happy they did it. It was so fun. Like, there was something about just getting out there, getting wet, like in the rain, in the elements and pushing through. So I actually loved the fact that it rained that day and it added that added element.
For sure. And you guys, y'all do a great job as far as just your brand strategy and social strategy to put that stuff out there. And I love kind of seeing how you guys are growing and pushing the community out to the greater community on social. Do y'all, what does that look like for you as far as, you know, how you plan out your strategy with how you're looking? Because obviously, like you talked about, you're trying to essentially eventually take over the Georgia market with HEW. So what does that look like as far as how you grow socially?
So we're active on our stories. I mean, you have to post. And you have to be in front of people every single day.
Yeah.
And sharing everybody's wins. Like people like to see themselves working out. We have no mirrors in the gym. So with our coaches on the floor, we always have 3 coaches, and one of them is typically going to be walking around. And as long as form is looking good and everybody's being safe and they're moving forward, we'll have 2 coaches to kind of keep fine tuning and pushing and actually doing hands-on coaching. But then we'll have one person going around and just on the Instagram stories, like taking pictures, tagging. So that reshare where they get to then share what they did that day,
Yeah.
and they share it to their circle of friends. Like that's a great, easy, organic strategy to reach their buddies. We're doing social media ads, whatnot. Right now we're currently doing like a transformation challenge, and
I've seen that.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, I have.
Loud rumors doing their job. I love that. But with that transformation challenge, it's nice to have a shorter end date. Like somebody can wrap their head around, okay, I can buckle down for 28 days.
Yeah.
So 28 days, I can do this. Now I know that 28 days is not going to get you the body you want, but I can start to unlock something in you. I can start to like create this new habit of this daily discipline of fitness. So what we do, we get them on the body scanner. So we get their composition. So we get their body fat, their muscle mass, and their water weight. We'll fine tune like a macro approach meal plan that's customized to them. And then they get unlimited access to the workouts. Now, the most important part of that, so day one, when you come in, I sit you down and I'm going to schedule weekly touch points with me where you can check in. We can talk about how the week went. And when we put that on the calendar and I ask, how do you want to meet? Do you want to meet in person, phone call, text, Zoom, like whatever you want? We'll meet at this time on this week. All of a sudden, there's this layer of accountability. It's like, all right, I got to show up because you'll let yourself down 9 times out of 10.
100%.
But if you gave your word to somebody else, there's something weird about us where we don't want to let somebody else down. We'll let ourselves down all the time. Like how many times, if you're just going to go to the gym by yourself, the alarm goes off in the morning, you're like, man, I could use a couple more minutes, and you snooze it, and then you snooze it again, and then maybe a third time, and then you're like, you know what? I'll miss it today. I'll pick it back up tomorrow. You'll do that to yourself.
Oh, for sure. I have a gym in my garage, and like I'm this guy who's building, the Take a Step brand, supposed to be this disciplined, regimented guy. And I'll say, hey, I'm getting a lunch workout in at 12:30 today when I check out. And then, the fatigue from the day before, maybe I'll just stretch at lunch and I'll push it back in the afternoon. Then that afternoon training session doesn't have the same intensity because it's not as dialed in and as regimented as what I had scheduled. And if I'm just relying on myself, there's no other layer of accountability there. People can say, I hold myself accountable and that's great. But there's a completely new element that comes into play when you allow someone else to tap into that accountability.
For sure. And I would argue you're more disciplined than your average person as well. So your average person, if they push off that lunch workout, like they're not going to do anything. They're not going to even do the stretch.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to count that one as a loss. And as you do that, you start to like this self-confidence and this belief in self, because you said you're going to do something. Nobody else knew it, but you lied to yourself. And now you do it. And as you start to do that and that compounds, all of a sudden you start to lose the belief in self. Now, when you do it to me and I get to pull your card and it's always coming from a place of love and grace, like never out of like fear and shame and guilt. And I'm not stepping into like this righteous moment where, hey, you said you're going to do this and you didn't. But I get to graciously come up and be like, hey, what happened? Like, you committed to 3 days this week. I only saw you 2. Let's talk through this. And as we start to develop that relationship, and I kind of keep through a gentle balance of grit and grace, it's like, no, I'm holding you to this, but I'm coming from a softer side. It's been pretty cool to see how people are leveling up and they're winning quick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm talking about the relationship with self and how that relationship is built. You know, I heard someone talking about on a podcast recently, they were talking about, you know, how would you view one of your relationships where you constantly lie to each other? Like, if you constantly lie to someone or someone constantly lies to you and you call them out and you recognize that they are constantly lying to you, how do you view that relationship? Well, obviously not good. Well, then what does that say about the relationship with yourself when you tell yourself you're going to get up at 6 o'clock tomorrow morning and you snooze your alarm 3 times and get up at 6:45? You know, if you tell yourself that you're going to get up at 6 o'clock and you don't, you're lying to yourself. How much belief and how much confidence does that give you in who you are and the person you claim to be? Same thing with the workout. Same thing with, hey, I know I'm not going to eat sweets tomorrow, or I'm not going to, you know, whatever it is, whatever you promise yourself you're going to do. So many people, it's so much more, it's a lot more easier for people to lie to themselves because no one's holding them accountable to it. And people think that it's, go ahead.
Yeah, because nobody knows, but you know.
Exactly. And people think that it's not as bad because no one knows, so I didn't lie to anybody. But you lied to yourself, and you're damaging that relationship with yourself and the confidence in who you want to be.
So that's through this program, Nick Alfano's program. I've got a band of brothers, and we live by this code. It's called the Truth Agreement. So truth is an acronym. So the first T stands for trust the process. R is results matter. U is uphold the standard. T is take care of your brothers. And then H, what we're talking about right now, is honor your word. So the beautiful thing is we end up every week, we have to do maps. So we make a map for the week. And the map is essentially your schedule and like what are you going to get done in the four domains of faith, family, fitness, and finance. So we map out our goals. So like an example would be, for faith, I'm going to read through the book of Mark. I'm currently reading Outwitting the Devil. So I'm going to finish that book. I'm going to pray 7 times. I'm going to meditate 7 times. I'm going to journal 7 times. So there's my faith component for the week. An example of family component. I'm going to leave my wife 3 love notes around the house this week. I'm going to take both my older daughters out on separate daddy-daughter dates. I'm going to send 7 video messages to random friends, just checking in with them, telling them I love them, and God put them on my heart. So that could be an example of like the family component.
Yeah.
For the fitness component, I'm going to map out how many workouts I'm going to get, how many times stretching, am I going to stick to my macros? What are those macros? Maybe I want to run 10 miles throughout the week, so I'll write that down. And then finally, for finance, it's make and manage. So like, what are the revenue generating activities that I'm going to commit to this week?
Yep.
Am I going to like buckle down? Am I going to reconcile my QuickBooks? Am I going to process payroll? Like whatever I had to do that week, I'll map it out. So we all go through in this program, we map out all these different weekly targets. And guess what? We then share to the group. So now all of a sudden, if I didn't do it, if it was just me marking my schedule down and I missed something, okay, like I missed it. I lied to myself. Okay, nobody else knew. But the fact that I'm putting it public and I'm making this declaration like, hey, this is what I'm doing, it's incredible how much like you actually start to level up because you have people taking care of your brothers and honoring their word, and they're holding each other accountable. And like, it's always coming from a place of love. But if I'm at the end of the week, if I have to report back that I only hit 70% of my targets, they're going to ask like, hey, John, what are you doing? Like, why did you not leave those 3 love notes to your wife? Because they actually, and they're taking care of it. And it's cool to see that level up, man.
Yeah, no, I love it. And I think, I mean, it's such an intentional approach to life, and adding the accountability, factor into it just expedites that process and expedites your growth. One thing I want to talk about that I love addressing, because I mean, it kind of directly ties into my mission behind Take a Step. And the mission I have is to equip our next generation of leaders to take action on building their firm foundation for the life they desire. And I think a big component that can hurt people in that process is, like we were talking about earlier, feeling like they get stuck in a system and feeling like they feel like they're doing what they're supposed to do because it makes the most sense. It provides security. But I have a passion for taking action on a passion. And I think a lot of people are scared to do that. And I think I want to hear from you on what do you think keeps people from taking action on creating a life that they actually desire and want to live?
The first thing is not getting clear cut on what that actually is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's so much pressure. I mean, being an entrepreneur is like the new cool thing to do right now. Everybody wants to put entrepreneur or CEO on their Instagram bio, and they like to hold this badge of honor. Like, oh, I escaped the rat race. Like you 9-to-5ers, like, oh man, I escaped that life. Well, when I escaped the 9-to-5 life and I stepped into this role, it's no longer 9-to-5, dude. It's 9-to-9.
I heard that yesterday. I was waiting for you to say that.
And I'm not talking 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. I'm talking 9 a.m. to 9 a.m. to 9 a.m. It's 7 days a week, nonstop. So not everybody's cut out for this role. So like some of the happiest people in the world, they're probably selling coconuts in Costa Rica, and they're making just enough to get by, but they can surf all the time, and they're just like, they're happy.
Love life.
I think figuring out what you actually want, and not from like an egotistical, like I want all the money and cars. No, like connect on a deeper level. What is God calling you to? And then really find out what that is. Yeah. And once you get crystal clear on your targets and you start to write all these things out, like what does the perfect marriage look like? You're about to step into fatherhood. Like what kind of dad do you want to be? You start to map that out and write that out. Like how much, what impact does money have in your life? How much money do you want to make? And why do you want to make that much? If you want to make, like I said, if you want to make more money just to get the cars and the more houses and the vacations, like that's empty. And that's not going to be enough to push you through. But when you start to put a dollar sign, like a feeling and a purpose behind that dollar sign, all of a sudden you'll start to move a little harder. But I would get crystal clear on where you're trying to go. And then from there, just work backwards. Yeah. You take this and then you also have to realize where you're at. So that's another big thing that people don't do. They figure out where they want to go, and then they lie to themselves where they're at. They're not wholly honest, and they're not like, oh, my finances are this. They're not talking about like the debt that they've accumulated, and they will never say those real numbers. Or their body fat. They're like, okay, I want to get to 12% body fat. They think they're starting at 15. You're really at 20. So like knowing where you're at and then knowing where you want to go, and then figure out the plan. Like what's the first domino that needs to fall to make that happen? Yeah. And then what's the next and the next and the next. And as you gain momentum, you start rolling.
I talk about that all the time. I mean, I use the metaphor of a marathon, like on brand with Take a Step. It's like you say, letting that first domino fall is taking that first step. And then from there, what's that next step that we can build off of? And just that the subtle increases over time, building that up over years is how you reach the finish line of the marathon, right?
Love that. But you also knew how far you were running. So if you said, I want to make more money. Yeah. Well, what is that number? Because if we went out for a run and we're like, hey, we're going to go for a run, and you don't tell me how far we're going, I'll keep up with you and I'll keep going to a certain extent. But eventually, if I don't know how far we're going, I'm going to hit a wall and be like, dude, I'm done. Maybe I didn't pace it correctly. Maybe I came out too hard out the gate because I didn't know how far we were going. But if you told me exactly, hey, we're going to go run 10 miles. Okay, there's my target. Now I can pace accordingly. I know how to do the breathing. I know when to push and when to pull back, but I know where I'm going. Yeah. So many people are stepping out. They're like, I just want to be a better husband. I want to make more money. I want to grow this business. But you don't know what that actually looks like. So eventually when you hit that wall, because we all hit it, when you hit that wall, you're like, all right, I give up. But if you knew where you needed to get, and then you can break it down into smaller increments, like setting quarterly, monthly, weekly targets, all of a sudden, you're like, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like, but you need to know what you're trying to stomach.
Yeah. What, and then also, like you said a second ago, why too? Like you mentioned, some of the happiest people in the world are selling coconuts on the beach, not making that much, but they love life. They love what they get to do every day. They love being with family. Have you ever heard the story? I think I said this on the very first podcast I came out with. Have you ever heard the story of the businessman and the fisherman?
I don't think so. No.
You'll really like this. Really, just very quickly. So there's this fisherman that's sitting on the beach at the end of a long day, fishing, and there's this businessman who's walking down the beach after a long, stressful day at the office. Highly successful guy, and they cross paths, and the businessman looks at the fisherman, asks him what he's doing, and the fisherman's like, "Oh, just have a line in the water, catching some fish, take it home to feed my family." Businessman like, "Well, hey, I got an idea for you. How about you with these couple fish you buy, sell a couple of them, buy a couple more lines, and then that way you can, catch a few more fish and, make a little bit more money and create a little business." And he's like, "Well, okay, why would I do that?" He's like, "Well, maybe you could buy a boat from that, go out into the water, catch some bigger fish that are, more valuable, sell it for a little bit more money and start to do pretty well for yourself." I said, "Okay, why would I do that?" He said, "Well, you can buy a couple boats, hire a couple crews, get some great gear, and build like a highly successful business out of it and really start to profit and, set up some generational wealth." I said, "Okay, why would I do that?" He said, "Well, maybe one day from all that money, you could take it, retire, and then not really have to do anything but, sit on the beach and fish and relax and enjoy life." He said, "Well, what do you think I'm doing right now?" So
that's great.
Just understanding, like you were talking about, like some of the happiest people in the world are doing what they would do if they had all the wealth that they had all the wealth in the world. So, understanding that it's not the money, it's what the money allows you to do, and why do you want that money, and why do you want it, what do you want it to allow you to do? But I heard that about a year ago, and that stuck with me so much when, developing what my calling is, not necessarily my career. And just kind of building off of that.
I love that. That's a great story.
Awesome. Well, John, man, I've enjoyed our conversation. I hope you've taken as much out of this as I have. I think there's so much power and value that you bring, not only to the community at HEW, but also to the world and what you're promoting, the values that you promote, and just the leadership that you exuberate. I think it's so powerful, and I think you have an impact on people far outside the HEW walls.
I appreciate that, man. I'd love to get to know you, and we definitely got to get a workout together soon.
Yeah, for sure. Before we jump off, where can the people find you? Where can they follow along with what you're doing, how you're growing personally, and then also at HEW?
Yeah, for sure. Instagram's the best way. So it's John Szarsz. So John and then last name SZARS. And then our Instagram for all of our social medias for the gym is HEW Fitness Woodstock, and that's HEW, HEW. Just a disclaimer, HEW stands for Hard Exercise Works.
Love it. Love it. Oh, great way to end it. Well, guys, thanks for tuning in to another episode of the podcast. Please leave a rating, a review on whichever platform you're listening. Subscribe, like, comment if you're watching on YouTube, and we will talk to you in the next episode. Peace.